The auto plaza was quiet in that slow afternoon way, when footsteps echoed a little longer and the light from the high ceiling felt softer than usual. Nathan moved beneath the hood of a car parked in his service bay, steady hands, practiced rhythm, the kind that comes from years of doing the same work with dignity. He was 42, broad-shouldered with tired eyes that had seen both struggle and small victories. A few feet away, his son Wyatt knelt on the floor playing with a small toy car, rolling it along the concrete, making quiet engine sounds under his breath. Wyatt was 5, curious, gentle, and always watching his father with quiet admiration. Nathan paused for a moment and looked at him, a soft smile forming. "Stay close, son," he said in a calm voice. "Always," Wyatt replied, not even looking up because to him staying close was never a question. At the far end of the plaza, heels clicked sharply. A woman walked in, her posture straight, her expression tense, her phone pressed tightly in her hand. Her name was Claire Ashford, 38, the kind of woman people notice without trying. She wore white, elegant, controlled, but today there was something unsettled in her eyes. Beside her walked a small girl, Sophie, around 5 years old, dressed neatly, holding her hand but slightly dragging behind. "Come on, Sophie, we are already late," Claire said, her voice tight with pressure. Sophie nodded, but her steps were uneven. Nathan noticed them only briefly, then returned to his work. Life had taught him not to stare too long at people who lived in a different world, but something changed in a heartbeat. A small cough, then another. Nathan turned his head. Sophie had stopped walking. Her small hand went to her throat. Claire looked down, confused at first. "Sophie?" No answer. The girl's face began to change, a faint panic rising. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Claire's expression shifted from impatience to fear. "Sophie, what is it? Speak to me." The girl staggered slightly. Nathan was already moving, the wrench set aside, forgotten. His eyes locked onto the child, years of instinct taking over. "Stay back. I've got this," he said firmly, his voice calm but commanding. Claire hesitated for half a second, just enough to show she was not used to being told what to do, but fear overruled pride. Nathan knelt beside Sophie, his movements careful, precise. He gently turned the girl, checking quickly. "Choking," he said quietly, mostly to himself. Wyatt stood frozen, watching his father, his small hands clenched. Nathan positioned Sophie, his arms firm but gentle. "Come on, sweetheart, breathe," he murmured. A quick motion, controlled pressure, once, twice. Claire covered her mouth, her eyes wide, tears already forming. "Please, please," she whispered. On the third motion, something small dislodged. A piece of candy fell onto the floor. Sophie gasped, air rushing back into her lungs, a fragile, beautiful sound. Claire dropped to her knees immediately, holding her close. "Oh my God, Sophie. Oh my baby." The girl clung to her, still shaking but breathing. Nathan leaned back slightly, letting out a quiet breath he did not realize he had been holding. It was over. For a moment the world stood still. Then Claire looked up at him. Her eyes were different now, not sharp, not distant, grateful. "You saved her," she said softly, her voice breaking. Nathan shook his head gently. "Just did what needed to be done." Wyatt ran over and hugged his father from the side. "You did it, Dad," he said proudly. Nathan placed a hand on his son's head, his expression warm. Claire watched that moment, something deep inside her shifting. She had seen power before, money, influence, control, but this was something else, something real. "What is your name?" she asked. "Nathan Cross, and this is my son, Wyatt." Claire nodded slowly. "I am Claire Ashford." There was a pause, a quiet understanding passing between them. Nathan stood up, wiping his hands lightly on a shop rag. He glanced back at his open service bay, then back at them. "Take it easy for a while," he said kindly. "The girl will be fine." Claire nodded again, still holding Sophie close. "Thank you, Nathan." He gave a small nod and returned to his work as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But for Claire, everything had changed. Later that evening, in a quiet office high above the city, Claire sat alone. The lights were dim, the city stretching endlessly beyond the glass. Sophie slept on the couch nearby, peaceful, safe. Claire stared at her hands. She had built her life on control, on precision, on always being on top of it. But today had reminded her of something she had forgotten, how fragile everything really is and how sometimes the people who matter most are the ones we overlook. The next morning, the plaza was busy again. Nathan arrived early as always. Routine was comfort. Wyatt sat nearby with a small book this time, tracing letters with his finger. Nathan worked quietly, focused on the car in front of him. Then he heard footsteps again. He looked up. Claire stood there, but she was different today, softer somehow, more present. Sophie stood beside her, holding her hand, but this time she smiled. "Hi," Sophie said shyly. Nathan smiled back. "Hey there, champ." Claire stepped forward. "I wanted to thank you properly and to apologize." Nathan Nathan frowned slightly. For what? For not seeing people like you before. Her words were honest, unguarded. Nathan studied her face for a moment, then he nodded slowly. Life has a way of teaching us, he said. Claire took a small breath. I own this plaza. Nathan blinked once, surprised but not impressed. I see. And I would like to offer you something better, a head mechanic role over the whole service center. Better pay, stable hours. Nathan looked at Wyatt, then back at Claire. Why? Because you earned it. Because you showed more leadership in one moment than most people do in years. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, then he shook his head gently. I appreciate it, truly, but I am already where I need to be. Claire seemed taken aback. But you deserve more. Nathan smiled, a calm, grounded smile. More is not always about money. I get to bring my son with me. I get to be present in his life. That matters more than a title. Wyatt looked up at him, eyes shining. Claire felt something tighten in her chest, a realization, quiet but powerful. She had given her daughter everything except time. She knelt down beside Sophie. What would you like to do today? She asked softly. Sophie looked surprised. Can we just stay together? Claire nodded, her eyes warm. Yes, we can. She stood up and looked at Nathan again. You taught me something yesterday. He shook his head. Life did. We just listen when it speaks. There was a gentle silence between them. Then Claire extended her hand. Nathan shook it, firm and respectful. Thank you, she said. Take care of her, always, he replied. As Claire and Sophie walked away, hand in hand, slower this time, more present, Nathan watched for a moment, then returned to his work. Wyatt came closer and leaned against him. Dad. Yes, son. Are we rich? Nathan paused and smiled. In the ways that matter, yes. Wyatt nodded, satisfied. Years later, that moment would stay with all of them, not because of fear, but because of what it revealed, that dignity does not come from status, that kindness crosses every boundary, that real wealth is measured in presence, not possessions, and that sometimes the quietest people carry the strongest hearts. If this story touched you, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Enlightened Story, and tell us in the comments what part stayed with you the most.